So now it's time for our deep dive into the rise and fall of Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House of Commons. And who better to give us the ups and lows and low-downs of this man's life and his work than Alex Phillips, talkTV's very own star of the afternoon show. He took the job in 2019 and everybody said, oh, he's going to be great because he's not John Bercow. And he's a really nice bloke and he's from the north of England and it's all very much kind of, you know, salt of the earth type. And he's had the worst week of all time, hasn't he?
Oh, hasn't he? But do you know what? I actually think that, you know, saying he's a really nice bloke and he means well and he's trying to be even-handed probably is true. And I think what's so sad here is he has got caught in the middle of this increase of sectarian politics in our political system and then accusations of bias. What I don't think he should ever have been in the position to suffer is the leader of the opposition coming to him and saying, look, if you don't do this, my MPs are going to be threatened in their constituencies. What's interesting is Sir Lindsay Hoyle has said, well, look, this is why I've done it. He made a comment in Parliament today saying, I don't ever want to have a phone call saying that a colleague of mine, either side of the House, has died at the hands of a terrorist.
I thought I was doing the right thing and the best thing, and I regret it, and I apologise for how it's ended up. I do take responsibility for my actions, and that's why I want to meet. And that's why I want to meet with the key players who have been involved.
Yeah, well, I mean, it may be too late for him at some point because even if he keeps his job this weekend, which people seem to think he probably will, he may well be out of it very, very soon. But he's also been involved in a few other sort of stramashes one way and another. Let's have a look at the next clip, which is him versus Boris Johnson.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, but we still have not heard why the Honourable Gentleman will not tell...
Order. Minister, Prime Minister, sit down. Prime Minister, I'm not going to be challenged. You may be the Prime Minister of this country, but in this House, I'm in charge, and we're going to carry on.
Oh, dear.
I just want to say, was that COVID hawk, Rishi Sunak, sitting like a ninja on the front bench?
Well, this is the great thing about historical clips that we do on these shows. You go, why is he wearing a mask?
Why is he like that? But, you know, my sympathy actually is with Sir Lindsay Hoyle. I don't care how unpopular that is. Look, he was a Labour MP. I think he's more old school Labour. The Labour Party is a whole smorgasbord like the Conservative Party of ideologies. But when a speaker becomes the speaker, they sit as an independent and they give up party allegiances. And they're voted for and chosen by the House. Now, he should never have been put into a position where he's called to one side by the leader of the opposition, a call which, as speaker, you can't really go, no, you probably should listen. Allegedly, the Labour Party said to him, there will be blood on your hands. What do you do in that situation? What do you do? He now regrets it. What I find fascinating
Well, he could have called off the whole thing, couldn't he?
Well, he could have.
He could have just gone, you know what? We're not going to do this.
Why are we even doing it?
Yeah, right.
Why are we having these debates? Because, and actually, the blame doesn't come down to the Speaker for that either.
No.
It kind of comes down to the SNP. And these absolutely unscrupulous politicians who want to use very dangerous, very inflammatory, divisive debates to just virtue signal when they have zero impact on a war going on 2,500 miles away.
And guess what? It's all come back and bitten them on the arse because now they're all getting harassed and harangued and asked what their view is if it's not the right view.
They've opened the door.
They've let the beast into the parlour and the beast is about to eat them.
They've opened the door 1 inch to secular politics, extremism, and appeasing or tolerating intolerance. And guess what? The intolerance doesn't suddenly become tolerance when you tolerate it.
Well, isn't it the phrase, they expect the crocodiles to eat them last?
Right.
And that's kind of where we are. But let's have a look at another of Lindsay's greatest hits. This is when he went up against Kemi Badenoch.
Who do you think you're speaking to, Secretary of State? I don't want. I think we need to understand each other. I am the defender of this House and these benches on both sides. I am not going to be spoken to by a Secretary of State who is absolutely not accepting my ruling.
He's a bit pompous, isn't he?
Brad, you know what? That was the right decision, but if you're going to carry that forward, he should have said to Sir Keir Starmer, I'm not going to be spoken to by the leader of the opposition and tell me what I should and shouldn't do. That was his mistake, and I think he recognises
Isn't it interesting that, you know, in the chamber, he's quite happy to be very robust, but actually, if you visit him in his little office, you knock on the door and you go in and say hello, it's a very different ballgame. And I think he's actually always been a bit over-pompous. Here's him attempting to kick out some MPs. I know you like him, but by the end of this, you won't. Here he is, trying to kick out some MPs.
Order! Order! I say to the honourable gentleman, give me the seat. I will not tolerate such behaviour. If you want to go out, go out now, but if you stand again, I will order you out. Make your mind up. Either shut up and get out.
Now, if you or I were able to speak to people like that in our workplace, we might do it. There was a time when I used to do it, when I worked in newspapers. You're not allowed to talk like that to anybody. How is he allowed to do it?
No, but do you know what? I like that about the UK politics. Having sat in the European Parliament, which is so asinine and pointless,
dull, wasn't it? Yeah.
They actually kind of liked it with the Brexit Party then. They had a bit of spice and proper debates. Otherwise, it was
And they were always making
nonsense.
snide comments, weren't they? And you take your flags with you. I remember that one.
And it's why, you know, people around the world still like Prime Minister's question times and likes our sort of old conventions.
Yeah.
What's so sad is that the defender of these conventions broke them. Now, I don't think he would have broken the conventions were he not told, as he's subsequently said, that there was going to be blood on his hands. The real crime committed here is the leader of the opposition wargaming this from the beginning to try and satiate the appetites of certain elements of the electorate because he wants to win certain constituencies and not standing up for British values instead.
Yeah.
I think the person who should be in the dock instead of Sir Lindsay Hoyle is Sir Keir Starmer.
Yeah,
and it will be a great shame if Sir Lindsay Hoyle's head is the one to roll and not that of Sir Keir Starmer. That, to me, will be a travesty.
Yeah, well, that's probably more likely to be the case.
Well, it's going to happen.
Well,
that's how
let's
it
have a
works.
look at him finally managing to actually kick some MPs out.
Neil Hanby, I am now naming you and Kenny McCaskill to leave this chamber. Sergeant, deal with them. Deal with them. Deal with them. Just sit down. Out! No! Sergeant at arms, escort them out.
It's all a bit of a parody, isn't it? It's all a bit of...
But do you know what? The thing is here, what happened... This all takes root actually in Brexit. I'm not just saying that because I love a bit of Brexit, but the ill-discipline, that sort of, you know, pantomime, that defiance, that obstinacy, that wargaming, the parlour games, that all started during the EU referendum. And once ill-discipline, you know, if you're a headmaster of a school, once you allow naughty kids to get away with naughty things, it's very hard then to turn the dial back.
But I remember the good old days when old Heseltine got up and waved a mace around, and when Bernadette Devlin jumped across the chamber and started pulling somebody's hair, you know, back in the day when it was actually really ribald.
You know,
and that was great fun.
You know, there are white marks in the House of Commons in front of the two opposition benches that you're not allowed to cross, and they are swords distance apart.
And that's exactly right. But a mace is actually bigger than a sword, and so that reached. But there we are. Alex Phillips, thank you very much indeed. That was our deep dive into the rise and fall of the Speaker of the House of Commons. That's it for the first part of The World According to Mike Graham. We'll be back after the break with Prime Minister for a week. Welcome back to The World According to Mike Graham. Coming up, my big apology, but now it's Prime Minister for a week. So now it's time to meet our panellists for this week's Prime Minister for a week. And they're once again two newbies. We haven't seen them before. They haven't been on this show before, but I'm delighted to say very warm welcome to podcaster Brenda Dennehy and political commentator Mr. Peter Barnes. Very nice to see both of you. And I'd like to see that you're sort of colour coordinated as well. Some people come in dressed in black all the time, and it's just like, you know.
Going to a funeral
Yeah,
afterwards,
exactly right. Now, all you've got to do is give me 3 good reasons why you would be a good Prime Minister, because this is all based, of course, on Liz Truss, who was Prime Minister for about 4 weeks and didn't do that well. So we figure you could do better. Brenda, what's your first thing?
My first one would be fine cyclists. I had £200, but Mike, after my run today, I'm going to up it to £500
Yes.
for riding on the footpath.
Yeah, I would just fine cyclists £500 for having a bike, actually, to be honest.
Well, I'm not going to be anti-cyclist, right?
Yeah.
But it's on the footpath. Get off the footpath, man.
Yeah.
Get off.
They've got cycle lanes. I mean, we've spent millions and millions of pounds, particularly in London, to give them cycle lanes. There's nothing more irritating to me than seeing cyclists who refuse to use them.
Yeah, and then there's a certain, I ran up past, coming up towards Westminster today in Big Bin. And you know what? They were up in the footpath. And you know what? I said, I'm going to go up on the cycle lane and see how you like it. And I tell you now, they nearly blew me off the road.
No, they don't like it.
They nearly blew me off the road.
No, they're not interested in the highway code. They're not interested in politeness. They're not interested in giving way. I mean, I've seen so many countless almost incidents happen where cyclists run red lights, narrowly miss getting run over.
Yeah.
You know, it's absolutely mayhem out there.
Yeah. I always go to what my father calls them terrorists in spandex.
Yes.
Because they do think that they own the road. And,
they do.
And it is really annoying. Let's not forget that not so long ago, there was a cyclist, I think it was about 6 years ago, who was on the pavement and knocked down a woman and she died.
Yeah.
And people always we always laugh at cyclists and the way they behave, but there are consequences for their behaviour.
But also, some of them are also injured and killed because of the fact that when they cycle, they don't cycle very carefully.
Yeah.
And some places, like parts of London, are not really suitable for cycling. In the same way that some dual carriageways are not. I mean, I go up and down to Sussex at the weekends, the A21 dual carriageway. You see people cycling on it. You go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
There's trials driving at 70 miles an hour, you complete and utter moron.
I don't understand why anybody cycles in London anyway. That just doesn't seem safe in the slightest, if I'm being honest.
I love watching them in the rain as well. There's very many fewer of them in the rain.
Splash them.
In the summer. Yeah, I try not to, but it's not that
look like a
easy.
splasher.
Sometimes I don't see them until
So
the last
if you hit
minute.
them with the
That's the other
cars.
one. The ones who wear black at the night time and don't have any lights.
I know. Bad.
I mean, that's like a death wish, isn't it?
is.
Anyway,
Yeah, it really is.
that's a good start. Peter, what's yours?
So my first one is create a procedure to remove the Speaker of the House of Commons.
Haven't they already done that? Is that called Sir Keir Starmer?
I know, it seems pretty much, or at least his attack dogs anyway. That seems to be the news story that's been running around from earlier this week.
Is there not a procedure?
There's not. This is the thing. You either resign or you die.
Really?
To actually get rid of the Speaker.
Right.
So you can have... So William Ragg, the Conservative MP, has got this early day motion to host a... vote of no confidence, but it's completely meaningless.
Right.
It's still up to the Speaker to do what he wants to do, basically.
So if he wants to hang in there, he can do
he's well within his rights to do that. Now, you can argue that it puts pressure on him and all the rest of it.
Well, I can't imagine Bercow wanted to leave.
Exactly, but this is exactly my point. We've lived through the chaos of John Bercow, and now I have a lot of respect for Lindsay Hoyle, a lot of time for Lindsay Hoyle. But what we saw this week was absolute pandemonium. It was chaotic. And I'm sorry, but I don't believe his position is tenable. And unfortunately, MPs have no way of actually getting rid of him. Now, they can kick off and they can do all the tweets and all the rest of it. But in terms of official procedure, there isn't one there.
Right.
And I don't think that's right.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Because I don't share the view, by the way, that he's this nice guy and he's brilliant and he's much better than John Bercow. Because he's made a colossal sort of cock-up of the entire situation that happened the other day. And he doesn't seem to be clever enough to have worked out how it happened.
Yeah,
it happened because he was taken for a very long ride by Keir Starmer.
Well, this is the thing.
Basically stitched him up.
It's one of two things. He's either he's been officially stitched up by the Labour Party, or he's capitulated to an Islamist mob who've been threatening MPs. So either way, his position is completely untenable.
He's toast.
And it's quite funny, actually, because when I was much younger, I actually did my work experience with Lindsay Hoyle.
Did you?
Yeah. When he...
what sort of a guy was he?
He was a really nice guy. He has that reputation around Parliament as being just a genuinely good-natured individual. But like you say on this, he has made a categorical cock-up, and it takes something when the clerks of the House step in the way that they did this week was unprecedented.
Exactly. Well, maybe he's too nice. He should go.
I did feel sorry for him and the grovelling apology. I did.
Oh, don't feel sorry. No. Don't feel sorry for them. No.
Poor old Lindsay.
Don't fall for it. He looked like he was going to cry.
I know. I need to come on to myself. I know.
Straighten yourself out, man. You know, it's a job. Just get out.
To borrow a phrase.
When you fucked it up that badly, just get out. What's your second one?
My one is, in a wonderful world, I'd make everything tax-free in this country.
I like it.
Yeah, but I know it's never going to happen. I just look, right?
Playing dirty in this game.
I know. I know you're going to come for me in a minute, you. I just look at the countries like Dubai and, well, that's the United Arab Emirates. I see them over there, and all Bahrain is tax-free. The wonderful lives they're having and everything is so easy. I know they've got the weather and everything. Now, I know there's a lot of
you know what?
seedy, not so good stuff underground going on
They don't
down
do
there.
so well when it rains in Dubai.
Oh, no,
Have you seen what happens when it rains?
I see the molecule, the thing that they do up in
when it rains in Dubai, the whole place gets flooded out.
Well, it does.
Because they've got no drains.
Yeah, but then I think they create the rain as well. There's something up in the... Oh, God, it's too chemical now for me.
They might create rain, but they don't like rain. They don't know how to deal with it. And in fact, they put out an edict, apparently, a couple of weeks ago when it started raining, that if you put a picture of the rain or a picture of rain on your car on social media and broadcast it, you could be arrested.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Wow.
So, they're not quite as tolerant as you might think. But anyway, the no tax thing is good. In Ireland, they used to have no income tax for the creative industry, didn't they?
Yeah,
because
that's
a lot
true.
of rock stars used to go and find an Irish great-great-grandmother and go and live there so they didn't have to pay. Do they still have that?
I think
like Bono and all that.
Well, Bono, yeah, there's a bit of that still kind of going on and stuff like that. And a few other big businessmen, we still have that kind. But the Irish actually go crazy over that. Like they don't like Bono.
Right.
They don't like Bono.
Nobody likes Bono.
No one likes Bono.
I like a bit of Bono.
I don't mind Bono actually.
I like a bit of Bono.
I can't remember which newspaper it was in Ireland, but I always remember when they brought in the increase to corporation tax, the headline was "You don't make friends with the taxes," and I always thought that was quite funny.
Yes, absolutely right. I like the idea. I hate tax. I don't want to pay it. It only goes to people like Lindsay Hoyle who waste it all on his own salary. You know, it's shocking. Right, Peter.
My next one is abolish the Mayor of London.
Excellent idea.
Yeah, I'm sorry. How anybody can look at his tenure as mayor and think London has got better. I'm sorry, I want whatever you're drinking or smoking because there must be something wrong
Nobody can
with
understand how he keeps getting elected, though.
Well,
Everybody seems to hate the guy.
Well, I get. This is the thing I don't understand. Every taxi driver I've ever spoken to, it must be. And all those kind of dodgy little situations that we keep hearing about that don't happen. But, you know, honestly, the mayor's got a budget of about £17 billion. And I just don't know what he spends it on. No. And this city is falling apart at every single aspect of it, from its police to its fire service to literally everything. And... yeah, like you said, I actually think he might just win again. Yeah. And I don't understand why.
Well, because there's a sort of paucity of candidates that want to go up against him.
To be fair, I think you're right.
They don't seem to find anybody that's any use.
Because the one thing I would also add on to this is I'd also get rid of the GLA. Yeah. Because what is the point of them? They don't hold the mayor accountable. I can't put my finger on what any of them have ever done from any political party.
Well, it's like a self-fulfilling budget, isn't it? Yeah. You know, invent something that you didn't need.
Oh, yes.
Get loads of people to pay money into the tax system to pay for it. And then they can tax you some more to pay for some other things.
It always reminds me of the Oscar Wilde quote. The bureaucracy is expanding to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy.
It is.
And that's exactly what we're seeing. It's just ballooning budgets, taxing Londoners out of existence, really, where most people are now thinking of leaving the city, and to get weak services and nothing.
And you know that big building by Tower Bridge, which was built specifically for the London Assembly, is empty. Yeah, because they've decided they don't like it anymore.
Do you know,
and they've moved the Great London Assembly to Stratford or something. Yeah, so it just sits there empty.
Yeah, because wasn't that purpose, like, it was built specifically...
It was built specifically.
Yeah, and it, like you said, it just stands empty. I think I asked Susan Hall about this on Twitter or something like that, saying, what are you doing? I wasn't met with a response.
She's not happy about the fact that they've moved it, but nobody seems to be able to do anything about it.
No.
Anyway, Brenda, what's your next one?
Abolish university fees.
Yes.
I'm living in a pure dreamland.
Yeah. You've got no revenue coming in here.
I know, yeah.
Let me just get it all from the cyclists. I mean, if you find enough cyclists, you can literally run the economy.
10 grand on the footpath. No, just one up there, right?
Just find them all. Every time they get out of the house, you're done for another 200.
Now, me and Peter were chatting about this before we came on, just about the university fees. I suppose as an Irish woman, we had no university fees.
No, I didn't have any. I'm so old that I went to university
You're that
free.
old, Mike.
Yeah, I am. It was great,
old.
yeah. I didn't stay, though. I only lasted 2 years.
Yeah, but I suppose when I came over I actually went to college in Wales for 1 year.
Bad luck.
I had a ball. I had an absolute ball.
Where'd you go?
Great time. Cardiff.
Oh, well, Cardiff's all right.
Well, it was up.
Don't go any further west.
It was actually up in the University of Glamorgan. I was telling everyone.
Yeah,
it was
that's all right.
Cardiff.
Glamorgan's all right.
Yeah, it was good. But and then the
Nettley.
people I was studying with, they were like, "Oh yeah, how many universities? What's your universities?" I was like, "No, it's free," and they couldn't go. And I couldn't grasp it. I was like, "You're all getting this debt when you're coming out of university." Oh no,
it is ridiculous. It used to be free, and the thing is, not so many people used to go, and then it was sustainable.
Yes.
But of course, Tony Blair decided everybody should go, and that was the big mistake. And now they're just businesses. And again, you're giving them money so the Vice Chancellor can pay himself £500,000 a year. To do what, exactly?
That's the point. They're also very badly run organisations. You know, most
of
universities are probably on the brink of going bust, if we're being brutally honest, at this point.
Yeah. I mean, when I was at university, we used to do things like occupy the Vice Chancellor's office on some pretext of, overseas students having to pay fees, and we'd just have a party, basically. They'd be shagging in his chair.
Well, that's half the problem
drinking.
now. Most students don't seem to be doing anything.
No, they take themselves far too seriously.
They're all like sober and everything. I was like, well, what's the point in going?
Exactly. I mean, I went and discussed all sorts of ridiculous things.
Were you in any kind of society or anything like that, Mike?
Well, I ended up being in charge of the student newspaper. That was what I did.
Good, yeah.
So I just pissed all over everybody else, really, and made fun of the student union.
Always making friends,
in those days, a little bit woke,
Yes.
So, it was great fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, it didn't teach me anything at all.
Well, look where you are now.
Yeah, exactly. Peter.
So my last one is a little bit niche, and mine is to give patients a breakdown of the cost of their treatments at hospitals.
Well, if they've managed to get
an appointment. Right. Because one of the biggest things I find annoying is when people say the NHS is free.
Yeah.
It isn't free.
It's not free.
It's free at the point of use. It is not free.
It's only free to people who haven't made any money.
Yes,
basically.
100%.
So they haven't paid any tax.
And the thing that annoys me the most is all these people keep saying our NHS and is it the envy of the world. Those are the people that I think will bring down the NHS more than anybody else because people will love the NHS but won't make any lifestyle changes.
It's the envy of the third world.
Yes, exactly.
They all keep coming in
I always like pointing out, if we're the envy of the world, why is there only us and Cuba that's got it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is useless.
And I think if people are actually shown just how much we actually spend on the NHS and we actually put some figures to it, I think people might start making lifestyle changes which will save the NHS. Because at the moment, I think the United Kingdom is nothing but a failing healthcare system with a country attached to it.
Yeah,
and
a lot of people were saying that
that
during the sort of various debates that we had before the last election, because it has become this ridiculously huge organisation, which is not even run like a medical organisation. No. It's run like a council.
I think at one point it was like the 4th largest employer in the world or something ridiculous like that. And I'm sorry, as people are getting older and the types of treatments that people need are more expensive, we have to make some big changes. And until people actually realise just how much we spend, I don't think we can actually have that conversation.
No, I think the trouble is, though, that they wouldn't even know how much they spend. Because if you ask anybody who is at a sort of, on the medical side, how much do you think all of this is actually costing? They don't have a clue. No. Because like all of these kind of public sector businesses, they don't have to be in the commercial sector. They overpay for drugs. They overpay for equipment. Because if you're selling stuff to the NHS, you are making a fortune. Because you just tell them anything. How much is that? How much is that globe? Oh, it's about 10,000 for that. And they'll go, OK, let's just sign it.
Yeah, the lack of parity between NHS trusts when they what they're buying. I think it wasn't the main one later, the gloves.
Oh, yeah.
Where you had one trust that was buying a box for about 11 quid and another one that was buying it from the same company. They were charging like 30, 35 quid for the same product. I was like, why aren't you talking to each other? And there just seems to be a complete lack of organisation. And it's one of the things I really hate when people say, oh, the NHS needs more money. It really doesn't. It needs really better management.
And 50% of the people that work in it are not medical workers.
No.
They're doing something else.
Yeah.
Like chest binding or something. Or, teaching men
all working
how
diversity.
to breastfeed. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, these are all great, though, I have to say. I love yours, Brenda. I mean, I don't care that you haven't got any funding for them. Because
I know,
you just have to find some way of doing that.
Yeah.
And it's only for a week after all.
Yeah,
so, I mean, I don't think you could spend any more money than this government does anyway. So, I mean, I don't think we could be any more debt.
No.
But you might want to bring him along as well, just to, give him some kind of job. He's slightly more responsible.
Just a tad.
So maybe Brenda could be Prime Minister. Peter, you could be
Chancellor.
or one of those other titles that mean nothing, like First Lord of the Treasury.
I could be one of the men in the grey suits in the background.
Yeah, we'll give you some kind of, dukedom or something like that. So, anyway, that was Prime Minister for a week. Brenda wins. That's Brenda Dennehy. Podcast is called what?
Left on Red.
Left on Red, which has got something to do with dating and WhatsApp. I don't understand it. And, of course, the man himself, Peter Barnes. We'll be back with more after this. So I thought, maybe this is the week that we're going to have some decent debate in Parliament, because after all, we don't always see it very often. And we've got Prime Minister's Questions on a Wednesday, which is the only time everybody really watches. And I thought the MPs have lately been showing some quite good, mature level thinking. But then, of course, we had the Gaza debate, and we had the SNP, and we had the Labour Party, and we had the Conservative Party, and we had a few other miscreants who were hanging around at the edges. And it all went horribly wrong, and all they did was show up the place to be full of complete and utter blithering bloody idiots. And so I'm not going to make any apologies to the MPs. They should be bloody well apologising to me. And that's all we've got time for. That is The World According to Mike Graham for this week. And we'll be back next week with more.